Welcome to Hazardous Waste Treatment and Disposal, EVSP210. This 8-week class is a study of waste accumulation, storage, and disposal options, pollution prevention, remediation and cleanup, underground storage tank management, and chemical life cycle tracking. Some basic chemistry is also covered, as well as treatment for neutralization, oxidation reduction, metals removal, and hazardous waste destruction. As a student, you are very fortunate to have an outstanding textbook. The textbook is clearly organized, written well, and each chapter closes with a summary of important points and concepts. With that in mind, let me explain the purpose of the weekly video presentations. Each week, there is one video with audio and closed captioning support. The video is between 5 and 10 minutes long and does not attempt to duplicate or explain everything in the textbook. The video bullets or main points mirror the textbook table of contents and are used to highlight the important topics covered during the week. The audio will not necessarily mention everything on the video, but attempt to paraphrase or explain more complex or confusing items. The textbook is the only reference for audio content. The textbook is your primary source of information. The videos are a multimedia effort to enhance your learning and understanding of the course material. The 1970s are often referred to as the environmental decade, as there were a number of major environmental laws passed by Congress and enforced by the executive branch. The reason for the laws was fairly obvious. The air, water, and land were being terribly polluted, and this pollution was having a negative effect upon plant, animal, and human life. Well, what had become of all the hazardous waste generated prior to the new environmental laws? Upon investigation, a number of fates were found. Some hazardous chemicals or wastes were spread on soil or roads. Pesticide wastes were spilled near production areas. Underground storage tanks were common. Pits or ponds were used as dumps. Sanitary landfills or unlined hazardous waste landfills were routine. Uncontrolled incineration, and even the proverbial illegal midnight dumping, where someone was just tasked with making the waste go away. No questions asked. The magnitude of the unregulated disposal of hazardous waste was another concern. How many problem hazardous waste sites are there? And what are the ramifications of this past improper disposal of hazardous waste? The answer to some of these questions can be inferred from the number of environmental laws enacted. Many of the laws shown on slides 3 and 4 will be explained in future weeks. Each law is special in its own way, but the preeminent law for our purposes is probably the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, abbreviated as RCRA and pronounced RCRA. RCRA requires a total documentation of where a waste is generated by the generator and where it is disposed of, the treatment storage disposal facility. RCRA was passed in 1976 and amended in 1984 when Congress passed the Hazardous and Solid Waste Amendments. The primary goals of RCRA and HSWA are to protect public health and the environment from hazardous and other solid wastes, and to preserve natural resources through resource conservation and recovery. A key point in reviewing this list of hazardous waste legislation is to remember that these laws are American laws and only apply to the United States of America. There are international laws on the topic, and there will likely be more international laws in the future, But these international laws will not be covered in great detail. Another key point is to understand that even if America has an environmental law prohibiting an unregulated disposal of hazardous waste, another country may or may not have a similar law, or may not have the ability to enforce the law. So some aspect of the past disposal practices of America might still be seen in other countries today. In conclusion, this last slide mentions two questions for current thought. What is the magnitude of the current hazardous waste problem? And how do we currently and adequately dispose of hazardous waste? The textbook provides clues and answers with mention of site assessments, risk assessments, emergency response and spill control, remediation, permitting, and waste minimization and pollution prevention, each a major topic in its own right.